Hey everyone, it's Adam here. I spent a whole day at Matt's place, BB-8 for my Trans Labrador videos. The goal, and I've got about 5 minutes here to talk. If you actually want to mute this and then slow down to, I think, 0.25x, it'll show these all in real time if you want to watch through them. There's nothing informational that should teach people here. It's just kind of, I thought it'd be fun to compile some clips. So the goal here was to do a few things. We're going to do some powder coating on my Jessie racks and my lower crash bars. So those had to come off. We also decided to do a 24,000 mile service on the GS because I'm about 1,000 miles short. And so we had to pull the heads anyway. So the Machine Art Moto X heads came off. So Outrider crash bars came off. OEM crash bars came off. Jessie luggage is off. The Machine Art Moto X heads were off. And then we were able to crack open the heads and do a valve check after draining the oil. So it was a really fun day. We started around 9 a.m. and wrapped up at like 9 p.m. Got a lot done. That's putting the bike on the lift. All the stuff I just listed. We also pulled the shocks. I also installed a Zumo XT on the bike with Matt's help wiring. And then I installed the Touratech locking mount. Separate video coming out soon. Drained the final drive fluid. Changed the spark plugs and air filter. We also pulled the tank so that we could redo some wiring that was there with the we had made a custom wiring loom. He did and ran my ESA aftermarket shocks through it. This is us, by the way, jacking the bike up in order to get those frame bolts back in. After you drop the Outrider skid plate and brackets, it sort of, and crash bars, it kind of, the motor hung a little bit lower. It happens every time I do this. Every time I install Outrider lower crash bars, if you don't have some kind of a jack stand, the chance of your motor sagging below the bolt points in the motor and the frame is very high. So just keep that in mind. We always have to deal with that. So oil's drained. The valves. So Matt and I did my 12,000 mile service last year on this bike. 2 years ago on this bike, and we found that all the valves were in spec, except the intake valves on both sides were at the very limit of specification. They were getting tighter, and so this time we checked it, and he's found that we're actually beyond spec. So at this point, my intake valves are too tight for specification. So we didn't get to finish that job. We took a break and kept doing other stuff because I had to yank parts off to mail off, such as my suspension. So we ended up pulling the heads off, doing the valve checks, and then putting the heads back on and leaving the oil out of it. And so therefore, once my shocks are back from Beamer Shop, as well as a couple other parts we ordered from Max BMW, I'll go back and we'll finish this job by adjusting the valves. It's I'm glad we checked them as you're supposed to at 24,000 miles, but I was very surprised to see that the intake valves were, tight. It's very surprising, but it is what it is. That's why you do valve checks. The shocks are being sent off to Ted Porter's Beamer Shop to be serviced. I've done 30,000 miles on those shocks, so they need to have their fluids changed and inspected for any cracks or breaks. So they'll do their whole thing. Hopefully it's a pretty low cost, sub $300 service. We also had to order a couple things. So we broke the leveling sensor. If you watch my ESA install video, you'll see that I mentioned don't lower the bike on the rear subframe too low after pulling the rear shock. Put a jack stand in there. Well, we didn't, and I broke the leveling sensor, so that was $100. We also broke a couple of clamps. We broke the passenger side air intake snorkel termination point, which is plastic. And so I had to put in a $200 Max BMW order for a whole bunch of parts. Boo. So all in all, the whole service, all the parts included up front and after the fact, it's probably spending about $1,000 total with the powder coating and all the associated parts. But doing all this at a BMW dealership, my God, it would not be $1,000 to have shocks refreshed, 3 pieces powder coated, all the valve work, all the shim work, all of the sensors, fluids, spark plugs, everything. I mean, $1,000 to fully refresh a 24,000 mile bike is awesome. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thought you guys would enjoy it, and ride safe. Hope you guys are having a great winter. We're obviously having fun, and we'll have a follow-up video coming out in a couple of months. Yep, that's off-road riding for you.
Wish we would have got that done, but I don't think that's too bad for a day's worth of work.
Well, I think watch this, by the way. Oh,